My son said they were just vitamins, so I faked taking them and found out why. That was the moment everything in my life split into before and after. Take them. Mom. They'll help your memory, Ryan said. Standing in my doorway with that same calm voice I had trusted for years. And for months, I did trust him. I swallowed those pills every night without question. But what he didn't know, what he was completely unaware of, was that on that night, I didn't. I held them under my tongue, waited, and listened. And a few minutes later, when he thought I was asleep, I heard something that made my blood run cold. In that moment, I realized the person I trusted most in this world might not be protecting me. He might be quietly destroying me. My name is Nicole Hayes. I'm 66 years old. A widow living in a quiet home in Seattle. A home I once believed was filled with safety, with memories, with love. If you're watching this, tell me where you're from and what time it is. I read every comment. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about the moment you realize that trust can be used against you, and the moment you decide not to be silent anymore. Now let me tell you how everything actually began. It didn't begin with the pills. It began with silence. The kind of silence that settles into a house after someone you love is gone for good. 3 years ago, I buried my husband. And with him, I lost the only person who had ever truly seen me, not as a role, not as a responsibility, but as someone equal. After that, the house felt different, larger, but en petit. Every room carried memories that didn't comfort me anymore. They reminded me of what was missing. That was when Ryan started visiting more often. At first, it felt like care. He brought groceries, fixed small things around the house, stayed for dinner longer than usual. I remember thinking how grateful I was, how lucky I must have been to have a son who stepped in when life became too heavy. When he suggested that he and his wife, Amanda, move in to help out, I didn't hesitate. I told myself it made sense. I told myself I needed the company. And maybe part of me was just afraid of being alone in a house that no longer felt like home. But slowly, almost invisibly, things began to shift. Not in ways that could be easily explained, but in ways that could be felt. Amanda started asking questions. Careful ones at first. About the house. About my savings. About what plans I had for later. Ryan began speaking differently too. Not as a son asking, but as someone suggesting, guiding, directing. He would say things like, "We should start organizing things." Or, "It might be easier if everything was handled together." At the time, I agreed. I nodded. I trusted them. Because that's what family is supposed to be. Right? But looking back now, I understand something I didn't see then. I wasn't being helped. I was being slowly repositioned, shifted out of control, piece by piece, in ways subtle enough that I wouldn't resist. And the most dangerous part wasn't what they were doing. It was that I didn't realize it was happening. Not yet. The vitamins started as something so small, I almost feel foolish now for not questioning it. One evening after dinner, Ryan walked into the kitchen with a bottle in his hand and said, "Mom, you should start taking these. They're good for memory." He said it casually, like it was nothing, like it was something any caring son would suggest. I didn't hesitate. Why would I? I had trusted him my entire life. That night, I took the pills without a second thought. And then the next night, And the next? It became routine so quickly it felt natural, like brushing my teeth or turning off the lights before bed. Every evening, the same knock on my door, the same gentle reminder, the same 2 white pills and a glass of water. At first, I didn't notice anything different. But slowly, things began to change in ways I couldn't quite explain. I started forgetting small things. Conversations we had just hours earlier. Why I had walked into a room. Where I had placed something I was holding moments before. It wasn't dramatic enough to scare me at first, just enough to make me uncomfortable. Amanda noticed too. Or at least, she said she did. "You've been a little forgetful lately," she would mention, always with a soft, concerned tone that felt supportive on the surface, but carried something else underneath. Something I couldn't name at the time. Ryan would agree, gently reinforcing it, telling me it was normal, that it happened with age, that the vitamins would help, and slowly, something dangerous began to happen. I started doubting myself, questioning my own memory, wondering if maybe they were right. Maybe I was slipping. Maybe I was losing control of my own mind. And once that thought takes hold, it doesn't let go easily. It grows. It spreads into everything. Until one night, something in me resisted. Something small, but strong enough to stop me, and instead of swallowing the pills like I always did, I held them in my mouth and waited. And that decision so small, so quiet was the moment everything changed. I lay there in the dark, completely still, the pills hidden under my tongue. My heart beat loud enough that I was sure it would give me away. Minutes passed. Then footsteps. Slow, careful, just outside my door. I closed my eyes and forced my breathing to stay even. The door opened slightly. I heard Ryan step inside. Pause it, then whisper, "She's out." There was something in his voice I had never heard before, not warmth, not concern, something colder. Controlled. Amanda's voice followed from the hallway. Softer, but sharper. "Good. Keep it consistent. The doctor needs to see a pattern." Pattern. The word hit me harder than anything else. I stayed still, listening, every instinct telling me to move, to sit up, to confront them, but I didn't. Because something deeper, something instinctive, told me that whatever was happening, I needed to hear all of it. "She forgot where the keys were this morning," Ryan continued. "That's perfect. It supports everything." Amanda let out a quiet breath, almost satisfied. "Once the evaluation confirms cognitive decline, we can move forward with the paperwork." Paperwork. Another word that didn't belong in a conversation about care. My chest tightened, but I didn't move. "And the house?" she asked. There was a pause. Just long enough for the answer to feel intentional. "We sell it," Ryan said. "Prices are high. It's the right time." Just like that. No hesitation. No emotion. The house that held 40 years of my life reduced to timing and value. I felt something inside me crack, but not in the way they expected. Not fear. Not confusion. Something sharper, clearer. "And after that?" Amanda asked quietly. "We'll figure it out," Ryan replied. "Somewhere smaller. Somewhere easier to manage." Easier for who? The question echoed in my mind. But I already knew the answer. Not for me. Never for me. In that moment, everything aligned, The pills, the concern, the constant reminders that I was forgetting things. It wasn't care. It was construction. They weren't reacting to a problem. They were creating one. Slowly, deliberately, building a version of me that could be controlled, managed, and eventually removed. And the most terrifying part wasn't what they were planning. It was how calmly they discussed it. Like it was already done. Like I was already gone. I waited until their footsteps faded, until the house returned to silence, before I finally moved. He sat up in bed, the pills still in my hand, staring at them like they were something foreign, something dangerous. Because now I knew the truth. And more importantly, they didn't know that I knew. And in that moment, for the first time since all of this began, I wasn't the one losing control. The next morning, I didn't confront them. That would have ended everything too quickly and in their favor. Instead, I did exactly what they expected me to do. I played the role. I moved slower, hesitated before answering simple questions, even repeated myself once or twice when I knew they were listening. And just like that, I saw it, the shift in their eyes. Relief. Confirmation. They believed it. They believed their plan was working. And that belief made them careless. After breakfast, I told Ryan I was going for a short walk, something I hadn't done in days. He offered to come with me, but I insisted I'd be fine. That hesitation in his voice told me everything. He didn't want me out of his sight, but he also didn't want to appear controlling too soon. I walked straight to a small pharmacy a few blocks away and asked to speak to the pharmacist privately. My hands were steady, but my voice wasn't. I showed him the pills. Within minutes, everything I feared was confirmed. They weren't vitamins. They were prescription sedatives strong enough to cause confusion, memory gaps, and long-term cognitive impairment if taken regularly. Exactly the symptoms they had been pointing out. Exactly the symptoms they needed. I thanked him, left quietly, and walked back home, slower than usual this time, not acting, but thinking, planning. Because now, this wasn't suspicion anymore. It was proof. That night, I continued the routine. The knock, the glass of water, the pills. I smiled, thanked him, and pretended to swallow. Then I hid them, just like before. But this time, I did something more. I started recording. Small audio devices. My phone. Anything I could use without being noticed. And as the days passed, they talked more freely. About the doctor. About legal steps. About timelines. They weren't careful anymore. They didn't need to be. In their minds, I was already fading. Already losing control. Already becoming someone who couldn't fight back. But what they didn't know, what they were completely unaware of, was that every word they said was becoming evidence. The truth didn't come out in anger. It came out in silence, in a room where they thought they had already won. When the recordings were played, when the medical report confirmed the pills weren't vitamins, when every piece of their plan was laid out clearly in front of them, there was nothing left for them to say. No explanation. No excuse. Just silence. The guardianship process they had started collapsed immediately. The investigation that followed didn't need my emotions. Only the evidence they had unknowingly helped me collect. My son stood there, avoiding my eyes. No longer confident. no longer in control. And in that moment, I realized something I had been avoiding for too long. I didn't lose my son that day. I had lost him long before. I just didn't want to see it. Money reveals who people really are. But power control over someone's life that reveals something even deeper. I didn't scream. I didn't ask why. Because there is no answer that can repair something like that. Instead, I made a choice. They left my house. Not because I forced them to, but because they no longer had any right to stay. And as the door closed behind them, the silence returned. But this time, it didn't feel empty. It felt like something had been restored. Control, clarity, truth. I still think about him sometimes. Not the man who stood in that room, but the boy I raised. The one I believed would protect me. So let me ask you, if you were in my position, would you have done the same? If this story meant something to you, don't forget to like and subscribe. And remember, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop trusting and start seeing.